Welcome to the monthly gardening club for Zcash. This is a meeting we do every month to bring together open source developers across the Zcash ecosystem to share projects they're working on and to get feedback and help from other open source developers and anyone interested. So without further ado, we have some announcements, me talking for this welcome message, and then we have two presentations planned. We have Michael Harms talking about ZECpages and how that uses zecwallet-cli. And then Wil Moore will present a homebrew formula he's been creating, so it's easy to install zecwallet-cli on a Mac. And then every gardening club, we also have like an open mic session. So if anyone is working on an open source project and they want to share a quick blurb, like 2 to 5 minutes about what it is and what you're working on, and maybe if you want help or feedback, you can make that request. So if you're interested in sharing about any open source project related to Zcash that you're working on, speak up in the chat and Janie will keep track of who signs up, and then we can jump to those folks for the open mic. So first, announcements. This one will be interesting because I'm not familiar with some of these announcements. So can anyone share about Zcon Updates? Who knows about those? Anyone?
Will, it looks like you're maybe trying to speak, but I'm not getting any audio through on my end.
No, I wasn't trying to speak at all.
Okay, your mic was just fluctuating, so I wanted to make sure.
Okay, so I'm not sure what the updates are for the first three.
Is this an old bullet by chance? I mean, Zcon 2 was, it's already passed. So I know the recordings are out there. That's about all the only update I know of.
Yeah, that's
right.
That's super possible since I took these slides and just a copy from Elena's slides. So it's very possible that these are just old, and I just assumed that these were for July since I was kind of So that's probably on.
Got it.
Yeah, on the Nu5 side, we do just a quick update there. We do kind of deep dives on protocol in the Arborist call that we have every 2 weeks. That's where we go in depth on any upgrades or protocol related development. The main update there is just essentially we are working through our implementation audits. They're going very well, and we'll be wrapping those up in the next few weeks.
Awesome. And then for these ZOMG grants, I don't know if this is old news or new news, but it's still interesting to repeat. So there are several big grants that have happened recently. So one is for Arty, which is sort of a rewrite of Tor using new software and making it more convenient to embed in applications. So that's really exciting. Another one is from Trezor to implement shielded support on newer Trezor devices. That's also super exciting. And then one for ZECpages, and we're going to hear from Michael about some ZECpages, some innards here today. So those are the announcements. Yep.
Addy has from Nighthawk has an announcement he'd like to make as well.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, he just popped in the chat and said that.
Cool. Let's save that for the open mic section.
Okay.
Which will be after the presentations.
Okay.
All right. So the first presentation is from Michael, and it's about using zecwallet-cli in ZECpages. So, Michael, are you here?
Yeah, I am here. Can I steal screen share from you?
Yes, you can, as soon as I figure out. Yeah, there you go.
Rock and roll. So I'm Michael Harms. Thanks for having me here today. I'm talking about ZECpages. I got my notes right here, very transparent. I want to give a big thanks to the Zcash Foundation's ZOMG for giving us a grant to work on some UX. I just want to make sure that it's as legible as possible to the normal new user. There's one exciting new thing that's been added to ZECpages since the last time we talked, I think, which is the audit script. Let's just real quick take a look at that, because I would encourage anyone to tinker with this and let me know. I've had one person mess around with this and it's been fun. You can import ZECpages view key with these nice instructions, take a look at the transactions, and even run this to see which posts I've removed from ZECpages. And this dovetails nicely into talking about zecwallet-cli, because here it is making its appearance. We are listing our transactions and just piping it into this nice Python script right here. That was my most basic use of zecwallet-cli, is just piping data in, which is pretty decent for read operations, and that's what ZECpages actually still runs on. It's a Python script on a little box that reads the zecwallet-cli transactions, and it actually makes like a little HTTP request up to ZECpages to add it to the database cache. But that was the old Mike who wrote that code, and the new Mike would do it a little bit differently, because I like to keep things all centralized, and it's easier to manage for me to just run it on the same machine instead of some side job server. So now I use, let me bring up VS Code. Now I use child processes, which is pretty nice. There's usually libraries for these in most languages. In Node, there's child process exec. I like it. Takes a callback for what to do with what it returns. I've done this with the sub-process module in Python. You can find most languages support this. But all I do is I run exec, and then I run zecwallet-cli like I was on the command line. Whammo bammo, it gives me back standard out. Because zecwallet-cli is so neat and clean, I just JSON parse that, and we're set to go. I have an array of all the transactions. So this is super simple. It does require running the node or the light wallet on the same server as my app server. It lives with Express. This is part of like a lot of endpoints. In the case of ZECpages, this would be a daemon. This would fire pretty much every 2 minutes. It just loops. I think on a couple of apps, I just straight up use set interval and fire that function every 2 seconds or so. So those are the two key ways to do it. You can do child processes, which I would say is a little slicker. I think that's how ZBay does things. I've done it with Electron apps, just on a PC and packaging it with zecwallet-cli like in the resources. It works okay there. This is generally what I use now when I try to build these full stack blockchain MVC apps. And that's a term I first heard from Balaji, and it mostly refers to the idea that your app lives on top of this open data source, right? There's the blockchain, the Zec blockchain, it lives here, and the app is one level on top of that, and I get to cache it and do whatever I want with it and filter the data as I see fit. I used to do things via a job server and HTTP, which is fine, but it's not as nice for doing things. It's okay for reading, but passing things back and forth and like sending transactions isn't as sweet. So let's take a look at a more sophisticated function, which this is how I pay the likes. On ZECpages, if you get a like, you get half the money split off for you. This is how I do that. I determine the likes already. This is taking in a single object, a hash table. Each key is a zatter. The value is how much it's owed, right? It loops through those and it builds an array called send params. These are just specified. If you run help on zecwallet-cli, you'll see these are the params it wants. I push on a bunch of addresses with amounts and memos, and then I do the very same thing. I run exec. I forget exactly why I JSON stringified this twice. It might have been silly. There might have been a good reason for that, but I wrote this a while back, and this will then send it. I don't even really do much but console log the output, but here's a great example of me actually sending Zec from the light CLI programmatically. I can do this anywhere. I can do it as part of an endpoint. For me, I do it on as a cron job. This happens about once a day, and everyone gets paid out for their likes. That's about all I had ready in terms of a quick demo. I will drop links to this code if anyone wants to take a look as a touch point. I think it's a great touch point. That much can be said for it. Let's see. I don't know if I have a chat, but I will drop links to this code later. Oh, and finally, as a CTA, I will also call you all to take a look at signing up for this usability survey. I suspect most people on this call will be overqualified as users to be as part of the new user study, but I will probably drop this in chat as well. I look forward to any questions, and I thank you all kindly, as always, for your time.
Awesome, thanks. I don't see any questions yet. If anyone has them, speak up. But as always, I have an endless font of questions bubbling up. So one is, this is using, so I saw a ZecWallet-cli, and I've also seen ZecWallet-Lite CLI. Are those different code bases, or are they a different version? Did it rename?
ZecWallet-cli is just the Lite client. I'm not sure the history of, I don't know. I'm not quite sure the history naming wise. If to me,
cool.
I think it's
so yeah. So to so the next question is to like set up the box to deploy it for the first time. I assume you need to install ZecWallet-cli, and then you need to get the ZECpages key into it, right?
That's right.
And
yeah.
then when after you've done that installation and you sort of run it the first time, how long does it take to sync? Like, I mean, presumably the big win is that you no longer have a full node, so you don't have to wait 2 days or whatever. So have you noticed?
That's a super good question. It's been quite a long time since I synced a fresh Lite wallet to this. I would be curious to know the same, but I'm not certain.
Cool. Yeah, the next thought on my mind is more of a suggestion instead of a question, but I think it would be cool if there was a like a ZECpages parsing library, maybe in Node or Python or whatever, because I know there's different formats for things like replying or liking.
Yeah.
And it might be nice if others could build their own tools and could just use that library so that the ZECpages site and the other tools treat the messages the same way. Have you considered doing that?
No, it's never been on my mind. That sounds very clever though, as a way to open up the data even more than just making it a big raw store anyone can have at. That's a very interesting idea.
Cool. And then for the script you shared that could show, that could demonstrate like which messages have been hidden by the website, do you know if anyone else has used that or is running that?
There is one gentleman who I gave a lot of support to recently. I don't have his username. He was in a thread recently. There was one guy who walked through it, and he ended up rescanning and figuring out what was missing. Mostly, I like you might guess, there was a lot of parsing help I had to give. Like, okay, yeah, this one's a like that's base 64 encoded. But we got him down to a pretty manageable list. He saw about 1,600 posts, and he saw about 30 that I didn't like so much. So we've gotten there with one person. But if anyone else wants to mess around with the view key and help me test the auditing of ZECpages, I'd really appreciate that.
Cool. So my other curiosity is around the usability improvements. What do you have planned? So you mentioned you have the survey, and then what's the roadmap for that project?
You know, it's gonna rely more heavily on my pal Mark, my UX guy's expertise, but mostly it's running user interviews off of the survey. It's gonna involve a redesign because the app does look a little I don't know, it's not really in line with modern app standards. So taking the chance to maybe make it look more like, I don't know, maybe something like Reddit if I decide that it's a Reddit killer, maybe something more like Twitter if I decide it's Twitter killer, but something a little more modern app. And the other side would be explainer content, right? If you go to zecpages.com, it says it's what are the words? The words are not super clear. The closest thing you get to telling you if you're a new visitor, like let's say Balaji smiled upon us and retweeted our site, which is always a thrill traffic-wise. It says Zec-powered anonymous memo board parentheses how it works. And how it works is really blah and dry. And Zec-powered anonymous memo board doesn't mean anything to most people. So figuring out how best to explain what's going on there and having a new user understand what's happening and why it's powerful is really the key. So our interviews are going to be aimed mostly at figuring that out. Try to get someone in the seat ready to make a silly shit post or a profound revelation, whichever they prefer, on ZECpages.
Yeah, nice. Oh, I do see a question. So there's like the chat box where sometimes people ask questions, and then there's a Q&A thing. So a few minutes ago, Andrew Miller asked, are there any challenges in handling short reorgs? Have you ever run into that kind of challenge?
Oh man, I definitely don't think I have. If I have, it totally escaped my attention. It's definitely not been a concern of mine. I would say that blockchain integrity has been an assumption that I may be foolishly playing with, but it's where I'm at. I think, you know, if you attack Zcash long enough to like sneak your post on ZECpages, I think you earned your slot.
Nice.
Yeah.
There's another part to that question. Is there any need for LJKE? I'm not sure if that's an acronym, but
I think
do you
it
have any
means.
need?
Sorry, I think it means like. I think it was a typo.
Oh yes,
yeah.
Just a typo.
Yeah.
Is there any need for a subscribe API?
You know, we had subscribers and subscriptions and like a Substack-esque service that I was running for a while, and it really wasn't getting much use, and I took it down because it was one more button that could potentially confuse people. So the guts for subscriptions still live, but I am not currently doing much in that direction.
Right. Cool. Back to usability. One thing I've noticed when I've played with ZECpages is I try it out with different wallets, and the flow for different wallets is different. And so it seems like part of the challenge is that the end user experience is both the website and wallets. So are you like working with the wallet projects to sort of streamline anything?
I think I've opened a passive aggressive issue over to Nighthawk that they need to support the URIs, because that super duper duper, in my opinion, made ZECpages way more fun to use. So I think that is on the roadmap, and I'm excited for that to happen, because right now I think it's only ZecWallet that'll handle the URIs, and that went a real length to making ZECpages at least quicker for me to use. I suspect many others. But yeah, you're totally right that is.
Yeah, I had that experience also. So I was using the ECC internal demo wallet, which is like really similar to Nighthawk, for a while, and so I learned how to like set up all the fields like one at a time through the pay screen. And ZecWallet-cli at that time, I'm not sure if it's changed, but at that time, its send screen had like the same field. So for a while I kept doing that. And then one day I somehow realized that if you have the URI in your copy buffer, this is on iOS, and you paste that into the to field, it fills everything out for you. But for me, that was sort of like a hidden Easter egg. But once I discovered that, it really improved the flow, because it went from like typing 2 or 3 different things to just like one thing and then send. So I'm really interested in improving the usability around the payment URIs.
What
yeah,
actually,
so
I gotta give Addy from Nighthawk credit for this. A great idea he had that I think will be an important development will be he talked about mobile deep links. Like, you know, you click a mobile link and it says, do you want to open this in some other app? And getting that off the ground with ZECpages, I think would be really good. You click the like button and it just says like, you want to open in ZecWallet, and then it moves pretty nicely. And if it's all populated and it's one click, I'd be thrilled.
right, that sounds great. Oh yeah, Zuko, or sorry, ZZ, whoever that is, mentioned that with ZecWallet, you can also scan the QR codes that show up on ZECpages, which is interesting because I always use like a single mobile device. But it sounds like maybe he has ZECpages like on a laptop or something, and then uses the mobile wallet. I should try it that way too.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. I don't use the mobile wallet as much, but when it works, it's really quite a rush.
Nice. Cool. Thanks for coming and sharing that. Do you have any advice for anyone else who's going to build some sort of infrastructure or service using ZecWallet-cli beyond what you shared?
Keep your note management clean, right? You get a lot of notes. You can kind of slow down your zecwallet-cli. So every once in a while, you maybe just send all your money to yourself or something.
Ah, interesting. Cool. And ZECpages originally used Zcashd, didn't it?
Yeah.
Did it not?
The first one was a full node on a laptop sitting on this keyboard behind me. That was the original version. But I found that the light wallet CLI was just way more simple, and I needed to deploy it in the cloud, so it was less resource intensive too.
Nice. Yeah, I'm really excited about Light Wallet. SDK is being used to build out services besides wallets. So everyone tends to think of just like mobile wallets when they hear Light Wallet, but I'm really excited for the infrastructure component usage of it. All right, thanks.
Thanks.
Now, if you like the idea of ZecWallet-cli after this presentation and you're interested in how to install it on a Mac, we're going to hear from Wil on what he's been working on that front.
Great. Yeah,
Are you
actually,
ready?
I am, but I do have one question about ZECpages before we move on, if that's okay. All right,
Go
sweet.
for it.
So I was noticing that I was playing around with the QR codes with just the normal iOS phone app, and I noticed that some of the QR codes drop you into a web search with the address that it provides, but there are some QR codes that don't seem to have any usable data. That's what the phone app provides as an error message. Is that something anyone else has seen? Am I using it wrong?
You're scanning them from ZecWallet, the phone app.
No. So say I'm on, for instance, this page. To give you an example, I just posted in the chat.
Great.
And there's a QR code off to the right. And even if I type something into the box, and then I open my phone app, and oh, that's great. I got another notification right at the exact same time, so I can't see the pop-up. That's awesome. All right, cool. Yeah, same thing. No usable data found.
Which phone app is that you're using?
Just the camera app.
Interesting. My QR reader app parses that. I wonder if it doesn't like the prefix or something. That's totally new to me.
That could be right. Didn't think about
Wil, is that an iOS
that is
default
iOS.
camera app?
Yes.
Okay, so I think it's probably handing it to like a standard URL manager that doesn't understand the Zcash prefix. So it'd be cool to figure out if there's a way to work around that on that platform. Yet another usability tweak or hack to look into.
Absolutely. Okay, cool. All right, let's get into this demo. So yeah, for anyone that doesn't know, I'm Wil Moore III, and I am ECC's Developer Relations Engineer, and very glad to be here. Thanks, Mike, for doing the presentation for us just now. Very helpful. So I'm going to give you guys a quick look at what we're doing with Homebrew. And for those of you that are not familiar with Homebrew, this will also be a little bit of a, I guess, getting started guide in terms of how to create not only formula, but taps of your own, and how to get formula into those taps and make them installable. All right, so one of the big things that we wanted to do was to get zecwallet-cli into a homebrew formula so it'd be easier to install, so people could easily play with it, etc., etc. So that being said, let me get that screen share going. I'm just going to share my terminal. All right. So I didn't necessarily leave this screen up on purpose, but it's a good thing that it is, because I can kind of just start from here. You'll see that this is user local bin. And this is where typically you'll have a whole bunch of binaries, programs, things you want to execute on your Mac. And before Homebrew, anything you wanted to get in here, you'd find a binary for it, drop it in. Pretty manual process. And outside of the binaries, what you would find is you'd have to compile the source for anything that you wanted to install. I'm sure plenty of you have gone through that. So Homebrew sort of takes over user local. You'll see a number of different folders in here: cask room, cellar, Homebrew. So the installation of Homebrew sits there in Homebrew. Cellar is where you'll find a number of different formula that you've installed. So let's just kind of look at PyAmp. I like to give a little bit of a tour of the directory structure just so that you understand what's going on as we kind of go through this. You'll see that the name of the program, then you've got a version underneath that. So you can have several versions. But what's going to be linked to user local bin is going to be whichever is the latest that you've installed. So whatever's in this bin should end up in user local bin. So if we ls pi stuff, you'll notice that we've got links back to cellar into, and that wasn't even what I was trying to I put the asterisk in the wrong place. But either way, you'll see a number of symbolic links back to cellar within that bin folder. All right, so I'm going to close that up. I think we've got a pretty good handle on that so far. Now what I'd like to show you is, say I wanted to install zecwallet-cli, right? See, zecwallet-cli, or whatever. Let's say I wanted to know if I could install something called ZECwallet. Like, I don't know what the name of it is, right? I just have a somewhat of an idea that it might be called ZECwallet. So I'll just do a brew search ZECwallet, see what that comes up with. And after a few minutes of it chewing through life, it will then tell us whether it found anything or not. So what did it find? It found a couple formulas. It found a cask. Okay. So ZECwallet Lite and ZECwallet-cli are two different things, obviously. So we have a formula underneath a tap, and we'll get into what taps are in just a moment. But just so you know, anytime you see like a fully qualified path in front of the actual name of the formula, then you know that that's from a tap. Versus this one, ZECwallet-cli, that one is underneath core. Core is Homebrew's. So Homebrew keeps their repository separate. All of the Homebrew formula lives in Homebrew-core out there on GitHub. And if you were to want to get a formula into the core library, then what you would do is you'd create a new formula. You would then submit a PR to that project, and then hopefully it passes all the validations, and it's a useful enough formula that they want it, and they'll take it. All right. So, but what if you can't get it into core, or you just want to be able to install it before you get into the core, or you don't even care about core, you just want to be able to install it and tell people about it? Well, that's when you go and you create a tap. So let's take a look. If I want to know what taps I have, brew tap. That'll give us a list of all the taps that we have installed. Excuse me. So you'll see that I even have one just for my personal stuff, right? Wil Moore formula. How do you create a tap? It's on GitHub. All right. So you create a repository in GitHub. Called Homebrew formula. You can call that anything after the dash doesn't really matter, but the convention is typically formulae. Homebrew formulae, right? So you've got that. You've got a formula folder. Let's just ls into that, and you'll see what's in there. There's a couple of different things. So you'll see the zecwallet-cli formula there, but I'm going to delete it. Why? Because I actually moved it into Zcash. So Zcash has a tap as well called, what do you think it's called? Homebrew formula underneath Zcash. Okay, so we've got formula there, and we've got zecwallet-cli. Oops. All right, zecwallet-cli. Let's break this down a little bit. Let's start at the top. Description, fairly straightforward description of description. Homepage, that's just going to be whatever homepage you want to open, or rather, let me just give you a little taste of this. Brew home. So that's not even going to work. Why? Because we don't even have the tap installed. But if we do that with something else like PyNV, you can't see this because I only shared my I didn't share my full desktop, but what happened there was it opened the default browser with that page. So I'm sure you can imagine how that works. All right, let's go back here. URL. So URL is going to be the actual thing you want to install. This works for zip files, tar archives, DMGs, you name it. So in this case, we're going to end up with a binary. Obviously, you have to put the SHA-256 in there, give it a license. And once you get down here, this is really simple stuff. You just want to install the thing. You want to install the binary that's in that zip file, right? So that's really it. There's not a lot to it. What I'm going to do is I'm going to give you a quick demo of installing this. And here's a quick look at the README. It gives you some information on this particular tap that we have, and gives you the command right there on how to install it. So anyone that's used Brew in the past, if you're not used to using taps, this probably looks weird. I'm just going to take the verbose off of here because we don't really need it. It's nice for debugging, but it's not super necessary. So you're used to seeing something like this, right? But if we put this on here, what's going to happen is that tap is going to get installed. Again, brew tap. We see a list of formula, but we don't see anything that says Zcash formula, right? So let's install Zcash formulae. Did I spell that right? Yep, I did. I don't know if I even said it right. I just hope. All right, so zecwallet-cli. So what that should do is that should install the Zcash formula tap. It should then also install the zecwallet-cli at the same time. That's because I gave it a full qualified path. Otherwise, I would have had to say brew install, or sorry, brew tap, and then the name of the tap, Zcash formula. And then I'd have to say brew install zecwallet-cli. Okay, so this is moving along pretty quickly. You'll see a couple lines up. It did its tapping Zcash formula, installing zecwallet-cli from Zcash formula, downloading the binary zip file. It extracts it in the background, throws that binary into the right folder, links it up. So let's look at our taps again. Zcash formula has been installed. Great. And if we say brew info zecwallet-cli, notice we didn't have to qualify it because now that the tap is installed, it understands that that's a installable, viewable formula that has metadata available with it. Okay, so that's pretty much it for that. The other thing that you can do with Brew is you can install GUI applications. So ZecWallet Lite is a GUI application. If we brew install cask ZecWallet Lite, that will give us ZecWallet Lite. But let's not do that yet. Let's do a brew info on ZecWallet Lite first. And for this part of the demo, let me stop this share. I'm going to reshare full desktop. And let me open this source so that y'all can see what's going on here. Okay. I won't get into the variables except to say that they exist. And but take a look at this DMG. The whole point is that we're installing a DMG. Normally, you'd have to click, 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 mount the DMG, drag something over into a folder, unmount the DMG, and move on with your life. In this case, you get one command to install the entire thing and installs the app, the .app into the right place. It knows what to do when you uninstall the thing. And that's pretty much it. Same semantics as the non-cask version of a formula, where it's got the home page, the description, the name, the URL, SHA-256. Want to be verifying this stuff. And yeah, that's pretty much it right there. So
can you describe what a cask is?
Yeah, so cask used to be like this separate part. It was like an add-on to Homebrew. It was never part of core from the beginning. Um, and then at some point, it became popular enough that it got pulled into the actual Homebrew project. It's still a separate repository. And you used to have to call it differently. I think you used to have to say brew cask install. Look at that. Yeah. Either that's from a really long time ago, probably not. Most likely what happened is I tried to use the old version when I installing ZecWallet Lite, and there it is in my cache. So yeah, you used to have to do that. Now you do brew install like everything else, except you just add the cask flag to it. And that's what we're about to do anyway. Okay, so it's already installed. Yeah. So let's uninstall it. I forget if you have to use --cast to uninstall, but we'll see. Okay, good. So it no longer exists. And if I type zecwallet-cli, nothing there. Let's install it. I believe this will be a lot faster than the actual CLI installation. These things don't take long. Quick download. Installing the cask. Does anybody have a timer going?
Yeah, actually I do. And it would be good to wrap up in a couple of minutes so we have time for the open mic.
Great. I actually meant for the cask install, but that works too.
Oh, yes.
That's also useful. Thank you. Okay, so ZecWallet-cli app is now installed. So that was easy. And if we click that guy, we should see an app pop up pretty quickly.
If you uninstall, does it nuke your wallet?
Oh, I'm sure it will. Well, I'm not sure.
Yikes.
I'm not sure actually, because I don't know where the wallet lives. That's a good question for Michael.
Okay.
Michael, do you know where that lives? I bet you the wallet's still there though, because look at the trash folders. Just, oh
Right.
yeah, I bet you it lives in application support.
Yeah, I think it's going to be an application support / Zcash though by default. I think you're probably good.
Yeah. So to your question, if that holds true, then yeah, it's going to nuke it. So sad.
Okay.
Okay.
But if it lives
Sounds
in
like a
application
ticket.
support, if it lives in application support Zcash, it won't, which is possibly where that wallet's at. So.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
Okay, great. That's one I'll probably try to figure out at some point. So that's all I got. Thanks for hanging tight while I went through that, and I'll pass it back to you, Nate.
All right, thanks. Cool. So open mic, we've had at least one request from Audie at Nighthawk. Let's see. Oh, I see Audie's a panelist. Are you ready? Is your mic working?
Yeah, I'm here.
Hi.
So
I don't
yeah,
see any video, by the way.
that's fine.
Okay.
So thanks to Will really to make that beginner-friendly tutorial for zecwallet-cli. I'm sure many users will like that. And again, thanks to Michael for giving the update. And I do agree with him that the URI resolution needs to be prioritized. We need to improve the UX for all the new applications in the Zcash ecosystem. So we'll look into that prioritization. And apart from that, I just put up a new grant application for ThorChain for enabling native Zec swaps. So folks are free to review that on the Zcash forums. And the Nighthawk team is also taking part in reviewing and providing the feedback to Tor contributors as they develop the Rust-based client, the RT. So we're looking forward to bring the privacy at the network layer at the Rust layer. So that's something might be coming, maybe a bit later, maybe next year. So another update is Kevin and Paco from our Light Client Working Group. They have put up the notes public. So another open invitation for all Android and iOS contributors to contribute to the Zcash SDK and the wallet. So I'll just post those links in the chat, and we meet every bi-weekly Fridays. So I think it's a great time to start developing and contributing to mobile applications. That's pretty much it from my end.
Awesome, thanks. So just to clarify, you mentioned a ThorChain integration and then also the RD Tor project. They sound kind of similar, right? Those are two separate projects?
Oh, absolutely. They're totally different. So the Tor one is the RT project, which the Zcash Foundation has given a grant. And that's like a multi-year project to bring privacy at the base layer. Whereas the ThorChain is a separate blockchain, which enables native coin swaps. So different from Ethereum-based token swaps, this is a native coin swap.
Yeah. Cool. And are you helping out with both of those projects, ThorChain and the RD integration?
That's correct.
Awesome. And how can folks contribute if folks are listening to this call and they want to help with either of those projects?
So I think the starting point would be join us at the Light Client Working Group. So they can go to github.com/zcash/LCWG. That's the link I just posted. And
okay, great.
yeah, we don't have a contact page on that one right now, but we should be adding one soon.
All right. Thanks. Super exciting to hear about those. Cool. Are there any other folks who want to speak up for open mic? Going once, going twice. All right. Thanks everyone for coming to yet another monthly Zcash Gardening Club, and I hope it was helpful for folks. And I'm really grateful for all the contributors and presenters. So thanks for coming. See ya.
Awesome. Thanks, guys.